Welcome into episode 7 of Analyzing Attitude. I'm Jimmy Allen. That's the good Dr. Mike Sweeney with you here today. Don't forget to give us a like and follow and give us an oh hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Down in the comments. Also, and most importantly, Mike, we got some breaking news here on Analyzing Attitude. We're going to tell you exactly why you should subscribe to this channel. We've had a ton of subscribers, a ton of viewers. We really appreciate just the 7 episodes we've done. We're going to do a PS5 giveaway at 1,000 subscribers. So, you don't have to be the 1,000. So, as long as you're one of the first 1,000, you're going to be entered into a random drawing to win a brand new PlayStation 5, courtesy of Analyzing Attitude. We appreciate all the support from all of our new fans and all of our viewers. So, thank you so much. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a comment, and you could be entered into a drawing to win a brand new PlayStation 5 on us. Let's go ahead and dive right into the episode, Mike. This one's a really interesting one. It's December 15th. 1997, live from Durham, New Hampshire, not Durham, North Carolina. There's more people that live there. But we have Kevin Kelly and Jim Ross on commentary to open up the show. And we're still doing this rotation of commentators every segment until we get to the War Zone. Right. The reason this is interesting for a couple of reasons. Nitro's moved to a 3-hour show. This is the first week. They've been doing it on and off for the past couple of months. This is the first week where they just stay with that 3-hour mantra all the way until the end of the end of the company.
Yeah, and I used to be really upset that Raw was only 2 hours because I started watching Nitro, and I was like, Raw's only 2 hours, and then once it flipped, it's like 2 hours is a way better format. 3 hours is too long, as we now know.
the 3-hour show on the other channel is opening up with Tony Schiavone and Mike Tenay with giant grins on their face. For one particular reason, Bret Hart is in the house. He is officially under a WCW contract, and he's making his debut tonight on Nitro. Kind of in a lackluster way. We can talk about that at the end of the show, but the Hitman will make his debut on WCW tonight. How does WWF open up their 2-hour show? The Undertaker comes down to do an interview with Michael Cole. And this is really the first time that we've heard The Undertaker talk in over a month and a half, really, since the end of Bad Blood. And they announced that The Undertaker will be facing Shawn Michaels at the Royal Rumble for the WWF Championship. And there's this pop in the crowd, and then you hear it die down a little bit. There's a little bit of a murmur because everybody starts to wonder, well, what's happening with Owen Hart then?
Right. Yeah, and it comes out of nowhere. I mean, yes, they were feuding before, but as far as we know, that was done. There's been no segments with Taker and Michaels or DX or anything like that.
None.
And we're thinking we're full steam ahead to Shawn and Owen. As we touched on the last episode, that why aren't we capitalizing on it?
Yeah. Taker says he's fought Shawn twice and has never really gotten any results. And Michael Cole lets us know that this is going to be a casket match. And now we all know what's going to happen in this match. But before we get to all that, Taker gives us maybe the worst promo that he's given us in a couple of months. He looks into he says that Shawn's going to have to look into the eyes of the Reaper 4 separate times in this interview. He says that casket matches are legendary, and his record in them is legendary as well. He's only had 1 loss, and it took 2 guys to put him in a casket. And if he counts up all the members of DX, there aren't 10 people there, and Shawn doesn't have 10 friends to help him out. Now, ironically, that one casket match that The Undertaker did lose was at Royal Rumble in 1994, obviously to Yokozuna, where all the heels in the WWF ran down, including Bam Bam Bigelow and such, to help throw Taker in the casket.
Yeah, and that's when he got resurrected at the end. You just see his aura
soul left the building. Yeah.
I've never really been a fan of casket matches. I don't know about you. I don't know. I don't like the way to win to just put somebody in something. I get it. You have to incapacitate them, but I don't know. Never been a huge fan of them.
I think I'm always a fan of a match where you can add something to the element, add something to tell the story. So I like casket matches. I like ladder matches. The only thing I really haven't enjoyed is the new era Hell in a Cell, where it's red and you can barely see what's going on inside the cage from outside. The Punjabi prison matches, anything that obscures the vision and the visual effect of it has really deterred me away from liking those type matches. I love casket matches. I think it's a great story. They've always found different ways and Taker's always been better as a chaser for the belt, right? It's
yeah.
hard to get off him when he has it. He's so over, he doesn't need the title. But especially with guys like Shawn, where you're telling the story about the bigger wrestler versus the smaller wrestler, Shawn's quickness versus Taker's power.
Yeah, cat and
And
mouse.
yeah, and you got to have the ability to make it, because if it's just a one-on-one fight, like it just feels like Shawn's destined to win. He's needed Kane to help him at Bad Blood, and we're gonna see what happens at the end of this match. But it gives you the idea that if Shawn can find a way just to knock out the Undertaker or do something to put the Undertaker down, he doesn't have to pin him. He just has to get him in the casket. So I actually like that aspect of this. But Taker goes on to say that Shawn better leave his soul with the Lord, which is ironic because of where Shawn Michaels is a born-again Christian these days. But he goes on to finish. He said, because the rest of your scrawny, and he pauses because we're not in the war zone, so he can't say ass yet. And it's not the 9 o'clock hour, but the whole crowd goes nuts. And he leaves that word out and says, it's going to belong to me. Because at the Royal Rumble, at the end of the night, you better believe someone is going to, and the crowd finishes it with him, rest in peace. So this promo was not great. But Taker, the character, the ambiance, it's so over. Everybody comes along with him.
Yeah, he got all the words out. It's just, it feels like there was no confidence in his delivery, like when he's saying it. And I still think it takes a little bit before he even feels confident on the mic. He hasn't had to talk, really.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is they probably had certain talking points. Like it's very infamous that at this time promos were live and they weren't really scripted as much as they are today. Right. But I'm sure for events like this, where it's the Royal Rumble, hey, make sure you're talking about Shawn, make sure you're saying this, this, and this. Probably a lot of it was make sure you hit these talking points, and it felt like Taker got a little bit lost in this promo along the way.
Yeah, but we did get a saving grace, even though it's a screeching promo. We had some interruptions here after the announcement.
Yeah, the lights go out, and Jim Ross almost echoes exactly what I said last week on our episode. You could feel it coming. They're starting to even delay it a little bit. Lights go down, let it burn. Cue the organ. Out comes Kane and Paul Bearer. What I loved about Paul Bearer, specifically in this promo, I loved that he looked a little bit confident, not scared of the Undertaker because he had Kane standing between him. It's just those little nuances, right? About how why Paul Bearer was so good at what he did. And obviously his long-term relationship with the Undertaker probably helped, but it also just shows how strong we're making Kane look, that Paul Bearer doesn't have to be afraid of the Undertaker because he's got Kane standing between the two of them.
Right. And it was very effective. Like, there's no like shivering in his boots or anything like that. It's kind of like, Heyman talking shit when he's got Lesnar next to him or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, and like I said, he's very yelly in his promos, but it's more effective, I think. And I think he's the person that carried the promos in this feud. Because,
without a doubt.
I mean, Kane didn't talk.
Well, and Glenn Jacobs didn't really talk his fake Diesel very much either. So I mean, you've got a guy in the Undertaker who never really talked in WCW. Speaking of Paul Heyman, he had Paul Heyman with him when he was Mark Callis, and then obviously Kane is supposed to be a mute at this point, so we don't need him. We're not going to have him talk, so you need that mouthpiece. Right. But Paul Bearer gets in the ring, grabs the mic, and says, "What a family portrait this is! The only thing that's missing is the Undertaker's parents." The parents that he murdered in the house fire, and he says that all the suffering that the WWF superstars are going through is the Undertaker's fault as well. So we're continuing the story. The reason Kane's burnt is because the Undertaker set their funeral home ablaze. Their parents died. Bear says that he's going to give Taker one more chance to face Kane. Kane fires off. Listen, this might be our meat and potatoes of the week here. Kane absolutely annihilates the Undertaker with this right hand. You could hear it pop, and it was hand on glove. Kane goes to throw another punch, and Taker catches, and they tease, is this going to be the time that the Undertaker retaliates? They stare down for what felt like about an hour, but Taker just exits the ring. Kane's pyro goes off, and there's that really cool image of the Undertaker walking up the ramp with the pyro going off behind him. But we've established what the main event at the Royal Rumble is going to be. It's going to be Taker versus Shawn in a casket match. Kane is looming in the background, and that story becomes really interesting in the next couple of weeks as well. But we still don't know if and when we're getting this match yet.
No, and it's kind of classic, like Brett and Owen, when Brett refused to face his brother. Obviously, different circumstances. We got two giant freaks, and they're ready to have a monster match.
Brett didn't kill his parents.
Right, that's true.
Neither one of them could shoot lightning from their hands.
Yeah, I don't think
That
Stu
we
would have
know
signed
of.
off on that.
Yeah, that we know of.
But you touched on matches that were obscure to the vision. I'm not a big fan of the red light, like what they did with Bray Wyatt and stuff like that.
Ooh,
I actually
yeah.
kind of like the one with Kane and Undertaker. I don't know. It reminded me of like Freddy versus Jason with the like I don't know, eerie lighting
Yeah,
in the
I think the
background.
difference is in this area, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember up until this point. Kane only came out and did promos or run in and attacks in this. We never got the whole match
Right.
in the darkness and the red. And I'm
No.
with you because I thought that was terrible too. Like,
Yeah.
no offense to Bray Wyatt, what he was able to do in his career, but
Right.
it just I don't think it. I think it would have made him more scary had he been doing it in the light.
Yeah,
Like
I
the
mean,
attacks that he did in the Thunderdome and things like that. Sure, absolutely do that in the ambiance. But
right.
if we're gonna put it on TV, make it a better television product.
Right. And just the promo was fine. Like Taker either did or will do down the line, like promos and like purple lighting.
Mhm.
So I'm fine with the promos and the red lighting. Like it looks cool. Just keep the lights on for the action.
Speaking of the action, we come back from commercial break, and I don't know why we're still doing this, but we get Taka Michinoku versus Jerry Lawler. So we haven't seen Taka and Brian Christopher touch since the light heavyweight championship match. The interesting thing about this match, we get a UFC promo that runs during the middle of this, and I don't ever remember this. Like we talked about Blockbuster a couple weeks ago and going to the Blockbuster picking up DVDs or VHSs at the time. And you always have the WWF stuff, and then you have the UFC VHSs right next to them as well. But I don't ever remember the WWF running UFC promos, and obviously that's interesting now because TKO and the combination of the two companies. They obviously did the Lion Dens match stuff with Steve Blackman, Ken Shamrock, and Dan Severn and things like that. But I don't ever remember seeing these actual commercials being paid for by the UFC during WWF events. We get two of them in this night.
Yeah, I don't remember it either because as far as I knew, Vince was not a fan of like promoting other promotions during his show. And like he even opted to not buy UFC or let Shane buy it when it was going out because I don't know.
Fertitta brothers are very thankful.
Yeah. Yeah, it turned out good for everyone, but yeah, it was really weird in retrospect looking back at that.
We continue to bury our light heavyweight champion by Jerry Lawler just throwing him around and just doing doing hand motions about how much smaller Taka is than he is, and really just playing up to the crowd that he's just a little guy. And we get doing drop kicks at the same time. They tried giving us a really cool sequence, but Jerry's just clearly getting up there in age, and Taka is so much more athletic. It just looks bad because Jerry's trying to keep up with him. And hats off to Jerry Lawler, obviously one of the best wrestlers of all time with his run through Memphis. He's legendary. This is just much past his prime. Yeah. And Taka Michinoku can clearly go at this time. We get that dive that Taka made infamous throughout the Attitude Era off the top rope onto the ramp, and the athleticism is just on a completely different level, albeit a brand new face to the company versus a wily veteran. But the new face looked heads and shoulders above where Jerry Lawler was at this point.
Yeah, and it's not even doing wonders for Taka. Like he looks good doing his stuff, but like he's so much heavier than Taka. Like it looks at part sluggish in the match. Like, and you know we're
Taka stuff gets buried because Jerry can't sell it as well.
And we're 8 days removed from the first ever light heavyweight champion, and this is what we're doing. Like, why aren't we showcasing the people that are actually light heavyweights, which you kind of are with his kid, but it's like, let's get the talent out. Let's get some good matches under our belt because they're killing it on the other channel with the cruiserweights.
Another rough spot in this match. Taka goes for a moonsault, clearly gets all of it, but Jerry was just too late getting out of the way. Jerry no-sells it. Taka sells it like he didn't get him, where he clearly did. Jerry hits a suplex and a back body drop and throws Taka out of the ring. And as soon as he crawls back in, Jerry hits the pile driver, and it looks like we're going to bury the light heavyweight champion again. But instead of going for a pin, Jerry goes for a mid rope fist drop, and Taka gets out of the way, hits the Michinoku driver. Looks like we're going to get a clean finish here, which we probably should where this promo is going. But Hugh Brian Christopher jumps in the ring, attacks Taka Michinoku. We get another beat down of the light heavyweight champion. I just don't know what this is supposed to be doing for anybody at this point.
No, and they're trying to feel like they're building to a long-term feud with Brian Christopher. They're really not. I mean,
They're putting Jerry Lawler over more than
yeah,
anything.
and I don't like. I understand it's his kid, but I don't like Jerry's usage in the light heavyweights. It's not doing it for me. Taka is amazingly talented, and I just want to see more. And I mean, we only get like little speckles of shine throughout the light heavyweight era, but
I was really surprised that
it's
they clearly made such a big deal about this. And we referenced this last week with Vince going to Japan and signing the contract.
Mhm.
They didn't bring more guys over that he was like, if you're going to spend the money and you're going to make a big deal about him coming in, go bring guys that he can work with or that he has worked
Right.
with and build that up as well.
And you don't even need to get the big names in Japan. I know WCW was gobbling all them up and the luchadors, but I mean, there's still got talent over there. Bring them over. Let's put on a show.
Speaking of put on a show, that's what the WWF does next. The Nation comes out, and The Rock is at the front of this thing walking down the ramp, and we're about to set this up pretty big. Michael Cole does a much better job this week. He's back on the desk. He struggled mightily at commentary. He's on commentary for this promo. He says The Rock is the IC champ, but still doesn't have the hardware. Obviously, Stone Cold Steve Austin stole that a week ago after forfeiting the belt to him. Rock grabs the microphone, says he's the best damn Intercontinental champion that ever was. And Farouk grabs the mic, and Farouk says, you know what? And Rock cuts him off, says, no disrespect, but the champ is talking. And Farouk is not happy about this. We've been teasing it for a little while. Rock is starting to assert himself at the top of this faction.
Fanny pack and all.
It's amazing how much different he looks now.
Right.
I mean, the same person.
After suffering through the Taker promo, the light heavyweight shenanigans, this was like a big step up. I was like, they're teasing the split between Farouk and The Rock, or actually Farouk basically being ousted, and they're just letting The Rock shine on his promo ability. And I really enjoyed it. And then we get more into where his title is.
Yeah, Rock says that Stone Cold Steve Austin is a thief. He stole the belt, and he pans the audience. He says, no, he stole our belt because he is the people's champion. Rock orders Austin to bring him the Intercontinental Championship, and we didn't waste much time. The glass shatters. Here comes Stone Cold Steve Austin out. No belt in hand, however. Austin says The Rock must not be watching because you don't order Stone Cold Steve Austin to do a damn thing. He says The Rock stole the belt from him because he's a piece of trash. He only forfeited the belt to Rocky because he felt sorry for him and showed him some mercy. He tells The Rock to grab himself a monitor and it'll show him where his belt is because when you met the 316, you're in way over your head. Rock grabs the mic and says Austin acts like he calls the shots like he's The Rock or something, and he looks right at Farouk when he says that. He says Austin has 1 hour to bring his belt back, or he and the Nation will find him, drag him out, and beat the belt out of him. Farouk clearly still not happy about how any of this went. Rocky motions to Farouk and tells him to get to the back. And begrudgingly, Farouk still does it. And he follows Rocky back to the back. And we now have a setup for the War Zone. We've got 1 hour, and that's exactly when the War Zone kicks off. But Austin, no belt in hand. We're going to find out exactly where it is at the top of the second hour.
Yeah, I enjoyed this promo. I understand why they do it quite a bit in this time where they say you have 1 hour to do whatever. And we know why, because we have a long hour of a lot of nothing till we get to this. So we got to keep viewers tuned in.
And we got to make sure we come back at 9 o'clock because Warzone, we can curse, and we got to beat Nitro at the top of the hour.
Right. I was going to ask your opinion, Jamie. So it's very clear that Rock is known as probably one of the best talkers of all time. And
without a doubt,
I think Stone Cold does get mentioned a bit, but not as much. And I think that's a travesty because he just hits it all. It's just he doesn't have that smarmy, prickish thing that Rock does.
But listen, I thought he won this battle. I thought Rock's promo was great. I felt like Austin had the better one of the two here. The one thing that I think in revisionist history we remember, Austin repeats himself a lot. Like he calls The Rock a piece of trash in almost every single promo. Rocky's kind of doing that here too, and he's getting over that he's the best Intercontinental champion of all time. That he's the people's champ. Kind of the same thing with Taker though too.
Yeah,
there's obviously crutches, right? And obviously you and I doing this, we fall back on some of our nuances that we have, but
right.
You have it feels like these top guys sometimes when they get stuck or maybe get lost in their promo, they fall back on the catchphrases because they know they work.
Yeah, and especially if you're getting the crowd reaction through it to say
Maybe most importantly.
right.
For the second week in a row, we come back from the Rock's promo to set up the New Age Outlaws taking on Dude Love. And for the second week in a row, we get Billy Gunn giving us the, oh, you didn't know, you better recognize, and being on the microphone. And he gets exactly zero reaction from anybody. But we do get a little bit of a sing-along when he does say the, oh, you didn't know part. And people clearly didn't care when they realized it was Billy Gunn giving it to us, not Road Dogg.
There's a reason they eventually just give him the, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
And he's great at it, by the way.
Yeah, that's all he needed.
We get a reminder, despite the Outlaws leaving the dude laying last week, dude did get the win over Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn grabs the commentary this week, a la Road Dogg a week ago. Nowhere near as good as Dog on the mic or on the commentary desk. Jim Ross, this whole match lets us know that The Rock last segment gave Austin an ultimatum, just like you were just saying. We keep pitching, hey, you have to tune back in the top of the hour. Will Austin respond? What will he say? Blah, 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 blah. But Road Dogg randomly does the worm in this match while JR is going through this. And they're trying their best to be entertaining. And you could see the hunger in the Outlaws at this moment. They come back in the show, and we're going to get into that. But they're just trying whatever they can to keep their spot because they are really showcasing Road Dogg and Billy Gunn at this time.
Yeah, and I like we said, Billy's nowhere near good on commentary or talking in general as Road Dogg. And I don't think Road Dogg's any slouch by any means, but I don't think he's as good in the ring as Billy.
Fair. I think that's why they worked out so well together.
Right. It's the yin and yang. But I will say Road Dogg is a great entertainer, and doing the worm before the worm becomes a thing here in the next year. You
got to wonder how much him and Scotty talked about this too.
Yeah,
right?
I know. I did it first, right? Road Dogg's probably like, I'm not doing that every night.
I mean more of hey, why don't you try this, kids?
Right.
Works type thing.
Right.
The commentators do a really good job of kind of telling the story here for us. We talk a lot about providing the lyrics to the music being put on the ring as Dude Love kind of morphs to all 3 personalities of Mick Foley in this one matchup. He's pulling his hair out and rocking back and forth like Mankind did. He used the mandible claw at one time. He hit the double arm DDT at one point, like Cactus Jack does. And the commentators are alluding to the actions of Road Dogg last week with the chair shot and the leg drop on the title belts that Billy Gunn did last week is kind of causing this miscommunication or confusion in Mick Foley of who he's supposed to be. And I love that storytelling part of it.
Yeah, a great character crisis in the middle of a match. And he just pulls it off so well. Mick's such a pro. And it made the match way more entertaining. And you could definitely use the head trauma, especially with the shots that he takes to the head. It's perfect.
And we're not even in 1998 yet.
No.
But it's not even just the headshots. As we see here, Mick gets the sweet shin music and picks up the win for the second week in a row. Billy Gunn grabs the chair a la Road Dogg a week ago, slides in the ring, tries to cheap shot Mick. Mick moves out of the way, and him and Billy go over the top rope like a Cactus Jack clothesline. And the commentators ask which personality Mick Foley is becoming. The Outlaws run up the stage and give him a double suplex and stomp him out on the top of the ramp. The crowd chants for the LOD. And it's one of the biggest chants of the night. They don't show up. Nope. Billy Gunn goes to hip toss Mick off the stage. Doesn't go. Billy gets hit by a DDT, and there's 3 referees that come out to try to separate this thing. The Outlaws throw one of the officials into Mick. He goes flying off the stage, completely misses the table. Now, this could be a botch. I think this was supposed to happen. I think Mick was supposed to clear this table and make it look a little more devastating. He did a ton of hip drops on the outside of the ring in WCW, dropping the elbow off the apron. But the Outlaws kind of fake like they're going to go to commercial break. They run down and ask if Mick's okay, and they still lay the boots to him anyway after that devastating fall off the apron. And we're setting it 2 weeks in a row. Dude Loves 2-0. The Outlaws have left Mick Foley laying 2 weeks in a row as well. What's next?
Very effective. Just like last week, you got your bigger star in Mick or Dude Love, and he's getting the win, but they're getting the heat back on this up and coming tag team that is just really rocking it on all cylinders at this point. And
they're killing
I know you had your meat and potatoes earlier in the show, but that one was mine. That was sick.
The missing the table part.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's no wonder he has difficult walking these days.
The next match has got a lot of meat, not a whole lot of potatoes. It's Mark Henry just with his second ever match in the WWF, taking on mainstay jobber, the Brooklyn Brawler. And it's crazy that Mark Henry's been in the Federation for 19 months up until this point. And that one match, Jerry Lawler, where he famously pams him out of the ring, Jerry goes flying, is the only one that they had because he was working with Dr. Tom Pritchard and broke his ankle. We obviously saw Mark at Degeneration X in your house in the crowd doing an interview with Michael Cole. He's actually in the ring here. And you see Mark Henry get lost a couple times in this match. And it shows you how good the Brooklyn Brawler was in these spots, because all they do is they reset and they lock up. And if you know what you're looking for, you could see it. Like Mark Henry clearly gets lost, misses a spot, and the Brooklyn Brawler just gives them the look, and they just go back to a collar and elbow tie up and go from there. And it allowed Brooklyn Brawler to get close to Mark's ear and have a conversation with him, walk him through the match.
Yeah.
But during all of this, keep in mind we have a former Olympian, world's strongest man competitor in the ring. JR is just reminding us, Stone Cold Steve Austin has got an hour. He's got an ultimatum. And Austin has just left the building and brought a camera crew with him. So Austin's not going to come back into the ring to address The Rock. It's going to be something else.
Yep. And I used to hate when they would, like, especially at WCW, when they would talk over a lot of the matches.
Because it's all
building up to the main event. But this one you have to. Like, you got to keep him in tune. Like, you know, God bless Mark. He's pretty green still. Although I do think the match was effective. He was in there with a great mind with Steve Lombardi or
Steve Lombardi. That's his real name.
Right.
Okay,
so I was okay with this match. I mean, I was not okay with Mark's ring gear choice if you're trying to get him over. It just
well, I don't know. Was
black shirt over it?
Well, I think it's just kind of a prelude and even almost an Easter egg to what's coming.
Right. And that could have been. I was just I totally forgot
that this was
Lawler was still like wrestling like here at this time.
He's around for 2 more years. This isn't even the last one. Yeah, but it was kind of a nothing match. Mark Henry locks in a bear hug and the official calls for the bell. Mm-hmm. The thing I didn't like about Mark Henry's music at this time was terrible.
Wasn't that Butterbeans that he walked out to at the pay-per-view?
It was a rendition of it with rock and roll into it. And it's also like a little bit of like the sexual chocolate music too. I don't know. It was very weird. It wasn't good. Whatever it was terrible.
It ain't no you're gonna get your ass whipped.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, 36 Mafia. But we go to commercial, come back at the top of the hour, and it's the War Zone. And we opened up the show last week with Vince McMahon coming down to the ring. We get a recap of the Owen Hart attacks on Shawn Michaels, and then we get the announcement of what the main event is tonight, and it's DX versus the LOD.
Yeah, I was totally wrong. I thought LOD was already out from the one last week, but
nope.
Nope. They're back again. On paper, LOD versus Shawn Michaels and Triple H is
money. It's Hall of Fame match.
But this isn't what we got. I mean, we'll get to it later. But
we opened the show last week with Vince McMahon addressing Stone Cold Steve Austin. That clearly was effective. We saw it in the ratings. We're going to open up the second hour with Vince McMahon addressing somebody, and he comes to the ring and he calls out Owen Hart, and he addresses that Owen's been endangering the ringside fans by interfering in Shawn Michaels' matches. Obviously, Owen coming out and attacking Shawn, going through the crowd, coming in through the crowd.
Right.
He says he doesn't give a damn about Shawn Michaels, but Owen is under a WWF contract. He orders Owen Hart to come to the ring, and Owen comes through the crowd again with, we just talked about Mark Henry's look. Owen looked fantastic in this street gear, all black look. Yeah, he looked like a hitman for hire.
Yes, and hands down his best, like, serious promo. Obviously, he can cut a really good heel promo, but the intensity he brought to it, and
you could see the realism in this one.
Oh yeah, and that's why it's just a shame they didn't really do anything with it. And I didn't know if that was because you kind of have a Stone Cold-esque character. Oh, I mean, in Stone Cold right now, so they didn't want him to be too much like that, and maybe they just went away.
There were
from
a lot of similarities. Yeah,
but I was in awe of his promo, and I just wish there was more that they had Owen do going forward.
Vince asks Owen who the hell he thinks he is, and Owen says, "Who am I? Who the hell do you think you are?" He asked Vince if he thinks Owen owes him a goddamn apology because he doesn't owe Vince shit. And boy, are we milking this 9 o'clock hour at the top of the at the top of the war zone. His brother, long pause, Brett, who's 5 minutes away from making his debut on Nitro at this point, and he mentions Jim Neidhart and Bulldog had to do what they did because they all left for the WCW, and he has to do what he has to do. That's staying right here in the World Wrestling Federation. It's time for Owen to do what he has to do. And he said it spent 9 years. And it's hard to think about this, that Owen has been in the WWF for 9 years at this point.
Yeah.
Back to earn the days. Yeah, to earn the reputation and build his career through this company. Nobody's going to run him out of this company, not even Vince McMahon. And Vince knows who he's talking about. And he's referring to Shawn Michaels as well.
Yep. And it just brought all the heat, and it feels like they're building to a big pay-per-view match with Shawn Michaels. That's my god! I just
well, and they go even further because Vince says if you're going to bring it up, this is clearly what this is about. It's not. It's about the one title that has eluded Owen Hart. It's the WWF title, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Owen grabs the mic and goes, "How stupid are you? Do you think I give a damn about a piece of leather with tin on it? This is about respect." He's not asking. He's telling Vince that Shawn Michaels. He's gonna make Shawn Michaels' life a living hell. And we kind of get a look at why we start seeing body doubles and independent wrestlers become security guards throughout the years, because Vince calls out the security guards in the building, and there's a little bit to be desired by these cops. They look like they just spent some time at the donut shop. Vince says these security guards to protect the fans. Next week, Owen is going to come to the ring, down the ramp like every other WWF wrestler. Vince says he's not going to run over any more fans. Owen then inches closer to Vince and just kind of teases that he might get his hands on him. The cops flanking Owen kind of inch closer with him. Owen snatches Vince up by his collar and says something to him, and I love that they didn't get this on microphone because it just leaves room for the imagination.
Yeah.
And then he walks away and gets escorted back through the crowd. It's a little more defiance by Owen Hart with the police officers flanking him by his side.
Yeah, it was very effective for Owen. I know I'm talking at this ad nauseum. It's just I'm just so upset that there was not, like, he could have been
completely squandered.
Yeah. And also, were you kind of shocked that they didn't have Vince really even acknowledge Stone Cold after?
I was, but I think they just wanted to. It felt like they're keeping it separate, right? We'll have Stone Cold versus The Rock. We'll have Stone Cold versus Vince. Right. Last week was really the only time we saw them in the ring together. And I wonder if they felt like it was clunky with all three of them being in the ring at the same time.
Right. The only reason I asked is just because the last shot of him flinging him off the ring.
Yeah, it's not even addressed.
But it's fine. They needed the focus to be on Rock and Stone Cold with just them this episode, so it was fine. Your take.
you clearly have one of the biggest stars in the business coming up next.
Yep.
With Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Taking on the future Rikishi, who was the Sultan at this time with the Iron Sheik. And we get Tom Brady and the Brooklyn Brawler on the same show. So the WWF clearly thriving at this point. Maybe this is why they get the rating they do tonight. We'll talk about that.
We get Sheiky baby.
It's also 2 weeks before the biggest pay-per-view in WCW history. Sultan hits a couple of big moves, but runs into the ring post. Tom Brady gets the upper hand. The Iron Sheik, Sheiky baby, hops up on the apron, and the Sultan accidentally runs into him. Tom Brady gets a roll-up. Brady gets the second win in 2 weeks. Mark Merrow comes out, delivers a low blow. The whole crowd chants Sable. She's not here this week. Kind of feels like a missed opportunity by the Fed.
Yeah, but I mean, at least we got to gauge that she is over as Rover, and
yeah,
that's the best. The chance was the best part about that match. Sable's chance.
Because there wasn't anything else good about it. That's for sure.
I brought up Brooklyn Brawler earlier, saying I didn't even know that was still a thing. I didn't know Rikishi was still the Sultan at this time. Like, oh my god,
we're over a year removed from when he faced Rock at WrestleMania. So yeah. we finally get the ultimatum. Time has come up. The Nation's music hits after the commercial break. They come to the ring. The Rock says it's time, so the Nation's going to go find Stone Cold Steve Austin. Before they do, Austin appears on the Titantron, and when we see Austin, he's on a bridge, and he says if Rock wants to find his belt, he's got a few things to help him out. He says you're going to need a mask, a regulator, a snorkel, and he goes and throws an oxygen tank. I don't even know if there's any oxygen in that thing. but it could help. And he says he's going to need some flippers, throw some flippers off. He's throwing all these different pieces of material off the bridge. And he says he's got a cell phone to give Austin a call. And then he grabs a beeper and says, "Here's your beeper, Rock." And Rock does a great job. He looks down at his pouch, selling that it's actually Rock's beeper. And he says, so you can give him the 316 and a thumb up, and he chucks it off the bridge as well. And he grabs the WWF Intercontinental Championship. It says, and you know what? I don't really respect you or the WWF, so say goodbye to your little belt, and tosses it off the bridge as well. And he pans the camera and says, I don't know if he's going to find it or if he's going to drown. I don't really give a damn either way. But this is just such a moment in WWF lore where say what you want about Shane Douglas and ECW throwing the NWA title belt to the ground. This is a WWF superstar throwing the Intercontinental Championship off of a bridge and saying he doesn't care if another superstar drowns or not.
That's just feeding into Stone Cold's attitude, no pun intended, persona at the time. And oh my God, his deliveries are hilarious, but they're also believable. It's like he went to a Bass Pro and just picked up any little thing he can cut a promo on. I'm not sure if there's any oxygen in this damn thing. That line got me good, but it was a very effective promo, and clearly because they revisit that down the line a few different times, and
they sure do.
Even superstars of like later on, they try to mimic it and do their own little version. Not as good, but it was awesome.
We talk about what's going on in the other channel, and they've just paid Bret Hart one of the largest contracts in the history of professional wrestling. He's being announced for their biggest show of all time as a guest referee between Larry Zbyszko and Eric Bischoff.
Because
what were you paying Bret Hart for?
I understand he broke his knuckle. I think that's what I heard when he
correct.
When he punched Vince. But still, what? And even if you're gonna bring him in as the ref, yes, he does end up doing the Sting Hogan thing, which was botched to shit. But Larry Zbyszko.
I thought they should have saved him for the show after Starcade.
Yeah,
I thought it would have been way more useful.
And he was going, but even a surprise appearance at the end of Star.
Don't even mention it. Tease it. Yeah, I agree. We get what I thought we got before we even started doing this podcast. I thought this happened much sooner than this, but it's almost like an explanation for what we just saw with Stone Cold, right? We get the Cure for the Common show. Vince McMahon addresses the audience in a green screen area, and he said there's a concentrated effort to open the creative envelope to entertain the audience in a more contemporary manner. Excuse me. Easy for me to say.
He used a lot of like ridiculously big words. So.
But he says the WWF extends beyond the confines of sports presentation into a wide open, broad-based entertainment platform. So just, hey, listen, this isn't real. This is sports entertainment at its finest. And we borrow from entertainment like Days of Our Lives, King of the Hill, music videos on MTV. Remember when that was a thing? Mm-hmm. And Jerry Springer. But it's almost like we've been giving you this Goldust character. We've been giving you the Stone Cold Steve Austin character. We're making it look more real. Just so everybody knows, because I, Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWF, am coming out weekly and saying Stone Cold Steve Austin and Owen Hart are endangering the fans. That might not be all as real as it appears in the ring.
Right.
Good.
I was going to say, what was your take on basically outing the business? Because I know there was a lot of heat with the boys throughout the industry.
That comes off to me as guys that maybe were compensating for things in life.
That's fair.
Because Randy Orton says it all the time. Suspension of disbelief goes out the window as soon as somebody does an Irish whip.
That's fair. Yeah.
Like, I was 9 at this time, and I can't even tell you how many times my dad told me, well, you know, this stuff's not real, right? Like, it was almost like we don't really need to defend this anymore. There's cameras everywhere.
Right.
And Vince says so. He said the audience is sick of having their intelligence assaulted. And the era of the superhero telling people to take their vitamins and say their prayers is passé. Clearly a shot at Hulk Hogan on the other channel.
Yeah, brother.
And he says parental discretion would be advised during Raw, only in the second hour of the War Zone. But other WWF programming like Superstars or on Saturday mornings is still family TV and shows on other networks do not require parental advisories. So still trying to keep that, hey, we're wholesome family entertainment, but Sable's boobs might be out here in the next 15 minutes.
Shut the kids' eyes at 9:15.
He also says that, hey, as the times have changed, so have we. We're happy to let you know that the creative change has shown a massive increase in TV viewership. This episode of Raw does not do a great draw. It's 2.7, but this is the last episode they draw under a 3.0 throughout the rest of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, they do really go off of what Vince says in this segment. I don't even want to call it a promo because he was just being truthful.
Yeah.
But the only thing that it was like, we're moving on with the times, but yet you have Brooklyn Brawler and Sultan and
Jose Estrada.
I liked it though, because I mean, I didn't watch this live as a kid, and I was still believing that it was real. But
I think that just shows you how good the presentation was, though, because they come out and tell us this, and then the show keeps going, and it's never like, okay, well, now we know this is fake. Like, I know Ric Flair had a problem with it, and a lot of other people, but the disbelief never went away for the last 35 minutes of the show.
No,
you know what I mean? So,
and their numbers went up. After this,
so we get past that, and it comes out, and Steve Blackman makes a debut with facing Los Barricos member and our favorite wrestler of all time, Jose Estrada, who's the hairiest man in the history of professional wrestling. But Blackman looked like $1 million here. Like he's obviously been really good in his whole career in the ring. This being one of his first few matches in the World Wrestling Federation, I don't think he could have looked much better. That flying cross body block hit. The front flip-up kicks were amazing. The German suplex that he wins the match with. He was about as crisp, and maybe it's a little bit of a tip of the hat to Jose Estrada, too. For as nothing of a match this was a really athletic competition.
Yeah, and they kept it short. So they're basically hiding Blackman's shortcomings at this point. But, yeah, looks good. He's our wrestling Chuck Norris, so...
Well, and that's an interesting point because this is again where we get the second UFC promo that runs this night on Raw, and it comes during the martial arts portion character of the night too. Really, really good product placement here by UFC and the WWF.
Good timing.
But Blackman wins. He came out with a gi on and a black belt and goes out. Obviously, his same black workout pants that he had his entire career. Looked like $1 million, man. He looked really good.
Have you seen him recently, like pictures?
No, I haven't.
He's even more jacked.
Hey, I know he runs that karate camp in New Mexico or whatever, still where he's from. So
you know what? I know he wasn't around really in the grand scheme of things.
He's a mainstay throughout the Attitude Era, though.
I'd like to see a Hall of Fame induction for Blackman.
I would too.
So,
but he gets the win after the German suplex, picks up the W. We move on to the final segment of the night. It's a DX promo. Shawn and Triple H say that China should take out Owen Hart since they got rid of the other members of the Hart Foundation, but then they decided to play rock, paper, scissors to see who takes on Owen Hart, and Hunter wins. So we know we're going to start building to that before we build to Owen Hart versus Shawn Michaels. Then we get the tag match. It's DX versus Legion of Doom. And this is textbook if you're going to have a tag team match, especially in this era. It doesn't get much better than this. DX did a really great job of isolating Hawk and building up the hot tag to Animal, and they even get a commercial break here in this match where DX is keeping Hawk away from their corner. We come back, and there's a really cool spot where Shawn whips Hawk into the corner, and Hawk backs out of it and basically accidentally runs into Shawn, and Shawn gets knocked down. And we get Animal in. Animal gets in. Not only does he get in, he gets his stuff in too. It looks like looks great.
Shawn bumping all over like he did with Shamrock for
two perfect guys to do this. Hunter's even Harley Race knee looked like $1 million, just 4 professionals. And unfortunately, we don't get to finish this match. The Road Warriors get the upper hand. China comes in, gets the low blow. And after Billy Gunn and Road Dogg attacked Mick Foley earlier in the show, LOD doesn't come out. But we go back to the Outlaws coming out, and they chloroform Hawk, and all 4 guys beat down Animal, give us a quadruple power bomb through the announce table. And then Billy Gunn shaves Hawk's mohawk, and we go back to what we saw a week ago, and this just looked great. It sucks that we had to do this to the LOD, but Billy Gunn with a top rope leg drop again, just showing his athleticism, fantastic. But we also start planting a seed here too, also with Shawn Michaels giving a little bit of a golf clap and saying not bad with how the Outlaws just handled the LOD. And the commentators even teased a little bit too. Is Shawn recruiting these guys to DX? We know that's not the case, but Hunter certainly does eventually. Yes. And it's just great long-term storytelling.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention this earlier in the night when Road Dogg fought Dude Love. Before the match, they actually, for the first time, referred to themselves as the New Age Outlaws. So
yeah, and they do it again here. We have an official name, and these guys are basically being showcased as the last thing we see on a Monday Night Raw that, as we mentioned, was the lowest rating, last low rating of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and the match was a lot of fun. I mean, really, in retrospect, LOD versus Shawn and Hunter, two of the best singles wrestlers out there, and
it did a worse rating than the top of the hour though, which
is nuts.
And a lot of it has to do with we're 2 weeks away from Starcade.
Yeah,
this is the infamous night where Sting is standing on top of the Nitro sign. He's been teased all over the arena. The crowd kind of screwed it up for everybody, and Eric Bischoff's inability to produce a TV show didn't help.
Right,
but they do a 4.1.
Yeah, well, Sting's story arc there was so compelling,
and it's the crescendo, right? This is what it's all been paying off too,
building over a year for like.
And listen, they also debuted Bret Hart tonight, which everybody's been waiting 3 weeks to see. Right. So it's a couple things. It's the crescendo of Sting Hogan. It's Bret Hart being announced for Starcade. But the WWF did such a good job of digging their heels in and saying, okay, well, let's showcase our world champion. Let's showcase Steve Austin. Let's get some intrigue about Owen Hart. Let's build up the New Age Outlaws. Let's try our best to do what we can with guys like Tom Brandi and Mark Marrow, and let's try to use and focus on our young talent. We'll debut Steve Blackman and get these guys that necessarily don't have a whole lot of information about, or they're debuting new characters or doing new things with them.
Mm-hmm.
And let's let that drive the ratings versus leaning on our former stars of the past as well.
Yeah, and you have to build the new stars because, like, I mean, God bless Sting and all of them over there. Sting actually was probably in his prime still at this point, but they hired all the ones that were past their prime. So they had their finger on the pulse on what they were doing. It just takes a bit to get there when you are building new stars. But it was pretty much just a youthful show other than Jerry Lawler and Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah.
And I honestly am not a big fan of the chloroform spot, like when Gonzalez did it, but this one maybe necessary because Hawk doesn't like to sell. So it's like, you got to chloroform me. That's the only way I'm going to be out for this. Hawk would never stay up and let you shave my mohawk.
You want to take a guess how old Sting was in 1997?
1997. 30.
He was definitely in his prime, but I mean, he's 38 years old at this point too. So not necessarily as old as Hogan was at this point. It's not necessarily a spring chicken either. And it was obviously the mainstay of the WCW from the 80s up until this point as well.
Right.
And just retired this year somehow.
Yeah. Good match. But yeah, I would say the show overall, it did what it needed to do. Maybe not as exciting as last week's, but
well, let's go ahead and grade it then. Go ahead and give it. We'll take your grade first this week, the good doctor.
B-.
B- for Dr. Swinney. I was gonna go with a C+. Obviously, the stuff with Austin was great, but we still have the Brooklyn Brawler. We still have Tom Brandi. We still have the Sultan. We still have the Los Bariquas. There's just so many things that just didn't deliver here, but there's enough pulling us towards a higher grade. And again, we're going to get a little bit of a lull of a show next week because it is Christmas and it's a pre-recorded, pre-taped show, and they clearly mail it in for the holidays.
But they're at Hammerstein.
And it's kind of the last one. Right. So every show from here on out is pretty much just a banger, and it only gets better as the weeks go on. And that's going to be the same case for Analyzing Attitude. Don't forget, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, give us an oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
In the comments, and make sure you like and subscribe as well, because if you do, we're going to enter you into a drawing to win a brand new PlayStation 5. We appreciate all of our followers. We appreciate all of you for watching. This has been Analyzing Attitude. We'll see you next time. That was just a glimpse into what Analyzing Attitude has to offer. If you liked what you saw here, here's what we suggest next for you. And
If you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Like and subscribe.